7:22 coming up towards 7:23 in Trinidad and Tobago, where the sun almost always seems to be shining in the area of the San Fernando bypass. It's bright, it's sunny, and not a lot of traffic as per usual, courtesy of the cameras of traffictt.com on this Monday morning. But let's move to an issue now that, as we were having the discussion with Kirkwaite, may not get a lot of attention because we don't spend a lot of time focusing on white-collar crime. We're more concerned, quite obviously, because of the direct threats of blue-collar crime and violence and so on. But it's corruption that is usually the genesis of a lot of our issues. And therefore, we want to put the focus this morning on the Office of Procurement Regulation. They are hosting a free capacity building series of workshops during the month of September in both Trinidad and Tobago. A variety of topics will be discussed, including bid evaluation and contract management. And to tell us more about these events and the work of the Office of Procurement Regulation, we're joined by three personalities. We have with us Marissa De La Rosa, team lead in capacity development. She's the personality in the middle. We also have Tamara Roy, who is the corporate communications manager, and Mr. Monilal Lalchan, who's very well known in the business environment, of course, president of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. He served a couple of terms, but he's now here in his capacity as procurement regulator and chairman of the Office of Procurement Regulation. Good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us. Mr. Lalchan, I suppose first and foremost, before we talk about the nitty-gritty of what is going to be happening with these workshops, just explain, and I asked you, first question I asked you was, under which ministry all is? And you said, no, you're an independent, you report direct to Parliament. Tell me a little bit more about the Office of Procurement Regulation.
Very good morning to your viewing audience. Firstly, and thanks for having us this morning. The Office of Procurement Regulations was actually set up under the Act which was passed in 2015. And we are an independent body set up literally to deal with public procurement. We are a regulatory body, so we don't get involved in the public procurement aspect. And being a regulatory body, we are independent. We get our independence under the Act. And we report directly to Parliament. When we do our reporting, we report to the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. So that's our independence. But really, to deal with procurement, it's wide-ranging. It's procurement across a number of agencies. The Office of the President, the Parliament, the judiciary, any ministry or department of a ministry, the Tobago House of Assembly, regional health authority, municipal corporation, statutory bodies, state and controlled enterprises, service commission, and a body corporate or unincorporated using public money. So it's wide. And the reason for it is that we have been tired as a nation only hearing about white-collar crime, people involved in alleged corruption and so on. So this act was passed by the requisite majority to deal with white-collar crime, but more importantly, and you'll hear from our team members here this morning, it's about building capacity so that people will be aware of what is right and what needs to be done in order to allow for transparency, integrity, accountability, and value for money, which are principles under the Act. So those are the real basic things that we're trying to do, develop the capacity, because with this Act, what happens now, once the Act is fully proclaimed, the Central Tenders Board goes away, and Section 28 of the Tobago House of Assembly Act goes away. So every ministry and department that would have called there now have to stand on their own 2 feet to do their procurement. And therefore, in building the capacity, we are hoping to bring the level up so that they can deal with it in a transparent manner. All right, well, let's get to some of the basic information, Ms. Roy, because we want to talk about these workshops. They are happening the 11th, 12th, and 13th of September, the 18th, 19th, and 20th, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of October at 3 locations. The first will be at Radisson, then at the Oasis Garden Terrace in San Fernando, and then across in the Sister Isle in Tobago. So you're covering as much of Trinidad and Tobago as you can. Who are you hoping will benefit? Who are you targeting with these workshops?
All right. With these workshops, I want to stress that they are free for named procurement officers within public bodies. We have the first 3 sessions, the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, of each session will be for named procurement officers. Half day on the Friday in the afternoon will be for CEOs, chairman, accounting officers, and equivalents. And basically it is to, again, as Mr. Lalchan said, build capacity, ensure that they know how to effectively carry about their functions under the tenets of the Act.
So essentially this is for public agencies?
Public agencies, that is correct.
Is there a requirement for them to register to attend the event?
They must be a named procurement officer, because in January of this year we would have sent out a public advisory under Section 61(2) of the Act, where public bodies must submit the name of their procurement officers to the office. Under that principle, we would have then made them validated to attend these sessions. So they would have to be validated. They would be placed on a waiting list when they register on our website. We have to validate that information, then release them with a ticket to go through to these sessions.
And what is the website?
www.oprtt.org, and they visit the workshop menu option.
Is there a deadline for registration for the event?
Yes, there is. In the North location, the 6th of September.
Right.
South location, the 13th of September, and in the Tobago location, the 27th of September.
And we'll repeat that information for you as well, and of course you can get all of that on information on the website also. Yes. Marissa De La Rosa, capacity development, is that a pretty phrase? What does that mean?
Well, basically what capacity development means is building the knowledge base of not only procurement actors in the procurement process, but the wider public on what is required under the legislation to be compliant. So that is where we're trying to build the capacity via these capacity building workshops.
And essentially, what sort of information is going to be provided at these workshops for the facility, for the participants? Sorry.
So for these workshops in particular, we'll be dealing with the highlights of the draft regulations. We'll be also dealing with the pre-qualification and pre-selection process, the bid evaluation process, risk management, contract management, as well as the standstill period.
And I know it can all get very technical, but at the end of the day, from your own perspective, how helpful is this going to be? Because, I mean, from someone on the outside looking in, when you deal with bureaucracy, you wonder if they ever get anything done. And people will say, well, you know, what it is all you want? All you want us to be transparent in the process where we go through everything, or you want us to rush through things and do it halfway? What it is all you really want? So from your own point of view, how do you think these various participants will benefit from an exercise like this?
Right, because these workshops are targeting the named procurement officers who under the legislation is responsible for procurement in their relevant agencies. It will assist in letting them know what the different areas of the legislation entails. So if you're doing a pre-selection process, what exactly you would need to do as the named procurement officer involved, as well as the Act now requires a standstill period. It's in between where you evaluate, you choose your successful supplier, and before you award the contract. So we really want named procurement officers to know what is required under the legislation and to know the Act and the portion that they control, as well as how their actions could affect the entire evaluation process.
Mr. Lalchan, as someone who would have come out of the private sector as well, I mean, for many people looking on from the private, they wonder, you know, dealing with anything related to procurement or processes in government is so long, so convoluted, and so tied up in all sorts of red tape. How does an event like this, how do these workshops assist us in better understanding the whole issue of procurement and effective procurement?
For the average man on the street and the supplier, let me just say this. Under the Act now, you know, long ago, you had to go through a very, as you quite rightly said, a convoluted process to get pre-qualified. And sometimes you try to get pre-qualified with a particular organization and they tell you, well, no, we do this once every 3 years, you have to wait. And then when you do apply, they say they look for some minor reason why they don't pre-qualify. Now it's an even playing field. Any member of the public could come in onto our database, put in their information, be pre-qualified. Thereafter, as Marissa was saying, then you can select from the pre-qualified contractors, and it's now an even playing field so that you can go in and the public bodies now are mandated to use that pre-qualification listing to invite persons to tender. So it makes life a lot easier. So you don't have to wait every 3 years to be pre-qualified. You can be pre-qualified 24/7.
Is it really a level playing field, Mr. Lalchan?
Well,
this Trinidad and Tobago, you know.
Well, Fazir, only time will tell. This organization has been put in place by Parliament to make sure that it becomes.
You sure they didn't put you in place to frustrate you? to give you a whole heap of work to do and then you don't have the resources to get it done?
Well, history will show that I never get easily flustered. Neither does my board, and we have brought on board a number of qualified and experienced personnel in the procurement field to make sure that this happens. And I'm glad you said that, because for you, what we need also is support from the public. The public has cried out for this. Now it's here. We have become operationalized. We have most of our members of staff in place, and we are going to do what is necessary under the Act to make sure this is not just another organization. And we have the teeth. In fact, I'll tell you, for breaches in the Act, someone can go to jail for 10 years and be charged $5 million. And it's not or, it's and. For example, splitting of contracts. You can go to jail for, if found guilty, for a period of 10 years and be charged $5 million. So the effect and the investigative powers, we have a full team of investigators already on board and ready and willing, and they are presently being trained in terms of forensic auditing and so on. So the answer is yes, we believe that this will happen, and we're just about to launch out, and this capacity development workshop is one of the methods in identifying what are the things that we need to do.
So indeed, these people can say that nobody didn't tell them before you start locking them up. Hopefully you won't have to lock up anybody.
Absolutely.
But it's a serious situation.
It is.
And just on that point, Salah, just so we could understand, is the legislation fully approved and assented to and operationalized, or are you still waiting on elements of the legislation to be approved before the office can be fully operational and you actually have the teeth, as you mentioned, to go ahead and do your work?
Well, the Act was partially proclaimed in July of 2015 that allows the board to be appointed. The board was appointed last year in January. Our first employees came in around July of last year. Since then, we have been putting the mechanism in place, like the database that I mentioned, the handbooks and guidelines that we'll be rolling out in the session, and a number of IT infrastructure in place. So all those things are now in place. The regulations, we have had a number of interaction with the Ministry of Finance, Legal Department, and so on. Those are about to be rolled out. Once the regulations are passed in Parliament, then we go for full proclamation. But there is nothing that stops us from getting partial proclamation, as the Minister of Finance would have said in his mid-year review. We want to have some additional proclamation that gives us the teeth in terms of doing investigations and so on. So we just about there, and he had promised a date of August. We believe it might slip a couple of weeks, but that's about it.
Do you find this thing taking too long? If you talk about 2015, and we know in 2019, and still only partial. I know you have to be optimistic. You're the chairman. You have no choice but to be optimistic. But you find this taking too long?
Well, first of all, the board...
You're sure they're trying to clean things up to get their friends out of the system so you can't catch them and then they pass it?
Well, if everything cleans up before, that's fine. That means that we are getting somewhere. But I'll tell you, the board was really appointed last year. And we had to get our offices in place, our financing in place. And that took about 4 or 5 months. And then our first employees, we had about 6 employees by the end of the year. So within 1 year, just to give you some statistics, we have met with 146 public entities already. 146, almost 12 per month. We have over 170 persons from the public entity and private sector came to us already, and we have been working with them in terms of identifying issues. We have 6 whistleblowing that we already got. People actually came forward and said, hey, something is wrong here, deal with it. So even though the Act wasn't fully proclaimed, we have been active and we have been dealing with public sector. A number of public organizations have already started adopting best practice under the Act.
And Mr. Roy, in your capacity as corporate communications manager, what's the sort of feedback that you're getting as far as, maybe corporate Trinidad and Tobago, the business sector, or just the general public, as far as the interactions you would have with them in their understanding of the role and the function of this office?
Right. So far we have been getting extremely positive feedback from corporate Trinidad and Tobago, because so far we've just really mainly rolled out that so far as they are our primary stakeholder at this particular point in time. We have intentions of rolling out to the general public so they can look out for us in their communities, even in the schools, because this is literally a cultural shift in Trinidad and Tobago. You have to change your thinking in order for us to change our trajectory. You know,
that sounds like a difficult task in many ways.
We are not saying that it is a small task.
Teeth in is not easy to change.
It is not, but we are up to the task. We are not saying that it is going to be easy, but we are saying it is possible.
And Ms. De La Rosa, from your own point of view, I mean, I suppose the first thing you all should put at the top of your motto should be stop thieving in that sense. I'm getting message across straight off. But when we talk about, you know, building capacity and creating that environment where people recognize the value of proper procurement, going through due process, and that this redounds to the benefit not just of your business but the nation. Is that a tough sell in Trinidad and Tobago from your point of view?
I don't believe so. I believe the public, I believe procurement actors are ready and willing. I believe they just need to get that knowledge base. They need to get that information where they would know how to act. And if they do see any type of illegal activity or any corrupt practices, that they now know they have an office that they could come to and they can give the information.
All right, well, before time runs out on us, before I really get all in trouble for saying something you're not supposed to be saying, although I'm trying my best with Mr. Lalchan, but someone who loves cricket, he's letting a lot of things go by outside the off stump or down the leg side. But I'll serve up a googly sooner or later and lick out that middle stump. But anyway, before time runs out on us, we're talking about the Office of Procurement Regulation, their capacity building workshops. So there are going to be 3 different sessions, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th of September. At Radisson. The deadline for registration is the 6th of September. Then the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th of September at Oasis Garden Terrace in San Fernando. Deadline for that is the 13th of September. And the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of October, and that's going to be at the Magdalena Grant in Tobago. The deadline for that is the 27th. And Ms. Roy, just give the contact information once again for anyone who would like to get it.
OPRTT.org is our website. You go onto the workshop menu bar and it's right there, very visible for all to see.
And this is for named procurement officers.
That is correct.
Those have been designated with that status in the various public agencies.
Correct.
And yes, there will be skepticism, but it is something that we should have moved towards a long time ago. Better late than never. And let's see if Mr. Lalchan and his team can light a fire under these various organizations, including the ones in Parliament that need more than a little firelight under them to get things moving along in the matter of transparency and procurement and so on. But thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fazir.
You're more than welcome. 7:40 in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be back right after this.
No hazard, disrupt or performance.